In this episode, data analysis under torture, internal and external thoughts and sensory inputs and the protocol by Alan Barker, the problem of data analysis for a victim of such crimes. Don't blame the victims. Try to understand the hideous position they were thrown into and which they in no way got to choose. Naive science dude has probably not spent 5 minutes considering what victims are forced to agonize over for years. The situation is closer to game theory with a malicious opponent rather than to the usual study of natural science, where natural phenomena are considered to be repeatable or at least indifferent. The victims must rely mostly on their own sensations and introspection. That is just the nature of this sort of advanced, secret torture. This is not to say that evidence of the ordinary sorts of harassment should not be collected, or that a breakthrough will not occur and someone will learn how to detect whatever signals or devices are used to inflict the mind-controlled torture and make it available to the victims. The first challenge for the victim, though, is just to figure out what is really going on. Many do not even have the language to describe what is happening to them. They have to see beyond the stagecraft tradcraft of the Nazi technical illusionists. The victims need to live their lives each day with whatever mental firewall countermeasures they can adopt in their minds. Beyond this, they can gather evidence to convince other people or for a lawsuit. They will discover, though, that for the time being the court system, like the psychiatric system, is part of the problem. How many times does someone have to beam a clearly external voice into your head before you have to question all your thoughts? Not too many times, once really. Some victims of this one-shot voice projection mind control may still suffer for years. When will you believe they are not reading your thoughts or that they are not trying to manipulate you? When the Truth Commission reveals the crimes? No, you will never believe them again once you know how the pigs operate. Most victims suffer from far more than just one voice projection experience, though, internal and external thoughts and sensory inputs. Inside the mind, the torture victims really are human beings just like everyone else, even though they are treated worse than anyone would treat a dog. They see with their eyes, hear with their ears, etc., have internal dialogues, thinking about things, sparks of intuition, and all the usual features of the human mind. As mentioned earlier, these are the processes the mind controllers attempt to hijack. For the victims, we can consider that their thoughts fall into 3 categories: internals, conditioned internals, and externals. An internal is a normal, natural thought grounded in external sensory input that the person consensually engages in. The usual thought model that most people have the luxury of believing is that all of their interactions are consensual and that their private thoughts are actually private and not tampered with. That is, they only experience internals. An external is a non-consensual input, like Cameron's psychic driving, where a person is strapped down and forced to listen to manipulative recording loops. In the modern sense, the externals are the voices projected into a person's mind from an external source. You can theoretically have consensual externals, even of this sort, but the victims certainly never saw a consent form, and you'd be a fool to consent to having the pigs the victims are familiar with have anything to do with your mind. The signal from a programmed auto-pig chip in the head would also count as an external. An external could also be an email from a Nazi that is based on mind-raped data. Any normally consensual interaction becomes an external when mind-raped data or psychological triggers are purposely embedded there. A conditioned internal, in the sense being discussed here, is an internal thought process that is a direct result of the torture by externals. The mental fruit of the poison tree, so to speak. After a week or so of having "you are a good Marine" drilled into your head from non-consensual externals, then when the machine is turned off, there will likely still be the tendency to hear the phrase, besides whatever other damage such harassment causes. This is especially true if the conditioning was specifically focused on certain stimuli, though random stimuli also become conditioned in the same way that a bell ring is associated to the bowl of food by the salivating dog. A similar sounding phrase, for example, can serve as a trigger for a conditioned internal. Conditioning during trauma is also strong and long-lasting and can bring back vivid feelings of the original torture experience. The manipulators can probably get some unwitting victims to march around their own homes like controlled robots. People's sensitivity to what is internal or external in their head would vary according to the person, age, length of abuse, and the particular technology and techniques used would also influence who becomes witting non-consensual. Perhaps this is a part of what determines who they harass and try to break and who they secretly control. Those susceptible to hypnosis might be especially vulnerable, and some victims may be influenced only while they sleep. Is it terrorism to call for blowing up a Nazi torture center that doesn't exist? A way to verify that a signal is purely external is via the protocol. This protocol assumes you have the cooperative person on the other end of the external channel you wish to authenticate. In practice, what you learn is that if there is such an external channel, you do not have a friendly witting on the other end. And victims know from long experience that there is such an external channel. That is, the protocol is a way that a friendly witting could authenticate to you the existence of an information channel that supposedly doesn't exist. On our next episode, the completion of the protocol section and mental firewall related topics. Visit www.targetedindividualscanada.wordpress.com for more information.